You initially wake up in a chicken pen. The air is cold, the room is dimly lit by half-broken lights, and the chickens are locked in small cages. In front of you is a military officer. Can you fry eggs on top of Mount Everest? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure as the bottom cooks, the top would just freeze. Something to remember next time. After your attempt to escape, the boss stripped you of all your main functions. All you can do now is walk and cook. So make me an egg, cooked on both sides, as always. Mechanically, the cooking is very interesting. You have to physically move your mouse to tilt your character's hand in the game, which in turn tilts the pan. The food itself doesn't cook unless it's in motion, which means you have to constantly keep moving to keep it cooking. The foods that require both sides to be cooked, like this first egg, also require you to move the food to the edge of the pan and flick your wrist to make it flip in the air. The military officer tells you to cook for the people in the city to gain more respect and gain an audience with the Saint of Six Stomachs to earn your freedom. After walking out of the room, right in front of you, there is a person that seems just slightly out of place. You are the new poultry peddler, right? Last one didn't last long. I would like an egg, cooked on both sides, as always. Can you also cook my cigarette? I like the flavor it adds. It's already lit though, so finish cooking before it fizzles out. Thanks. After that interesting exchange, you yet again unsheath your pan and start cooking the requested ingredients. The cigarette adds a new mechanic to the cooking. As the woman said, if you take too long during cooking, you will fail and you'll have to try again. Also, another thing that hasn't been mentioned yet is that if any of the ingredients on the pan fly out, you will immediately lose and have to start cooking from the beginning again. Different ingredients also weigh differently, which means they also have different physics, making it much easier to mess up and have an ingredient fly out. Whoa. The way you just handled that pan. Keeping it old school with a hint of respite. I don't think I will forget this. It feels important. This person seems like they could be important later. Let's keep them in mind. After finishing that meal, you go across the bridge and meet a strange-looking individual. Never met anyone who has been to the Mariana Trench. Starting to have my doubts. A guy like me, 2 eggs. This time, you have to cook 2 larger ingredients at the same time, specifically 2 eggs. Eggs slide around the pan really easily, making it easy to have one slip out. Flipping them on the pan is obviously also much more difficult, since you have to either flip both of them together or each individually, and it's very easy to have the already flipped egg flip again when trying to flip the first one. You make 2 eggs so well. The best 2 eggs I've had. Going down one floor, there are many people gathered around what seems to be a grill. You first cook for someone who ate raw chicken before, and this time, the ingredients include bacon. Bacon is basically just the same as the eggs, except that they weigh slightly differently and have a different shape. A person standing next to the grill mentions the cook to be called Tony, and himself to be his brother. Tony is apparently in a similar situation as you, except that he still has his humanity left intact. The brother seems to have given up on leaving though. Going up to the grill, Tony seems to be an old acquaintance of yours. He asks for help with cooking some of the meat, and you accept. This time, the game introduces sausages. This meat type takes up a lot of space on the pan, but they're usually not much of a problem since they're heavier than a lot of the other ingredients. The biggest problem with that is that they cook so fast that it's easy to burn them if you don't cook the other ingredients fast enough. That was impressive. Truly. The way you sling, the way you fling. Textbook. You quickly cook an egg and a slice of bacon for a stranger, and after that, talk to a military officer that has some interesting things to say. After the six-stomached saint banned poultry farms. Anything semi-chicken related is hard to find. Kids don't even call each other chicken anymore. Not sure if it's because they don't know what it is, or if it's just not an insult. It's basically calling someone delightful, or a delicacy. To be a delightful delicacy to someone must be nice. It seems that the harsh rule of the saint has even affected what food is allowed to be eaten by the general public, and because of this, chickens have become a rare delicacy. The other officer with him also asks you to cook his fish ration that he's been keeping apparently for over 10 years. The fish ration adds a very interesting complexion to the cooking mechanics of the game. You first have to cook the tin case itself, which afterward, the fish inside hop out, except that they don't just immediately lay on the pan. You have to flip the tin itself to have the fish come in contact with the pan. This adds a lot of difficulty later on when you have to cook multiple ingredients with the ration being one of them, since even the tin has to stay on the pan for you to be able to complete the meal. I won't forget this moment. Along the way, you cook 4 eggs for 2 friends before talking to more military officers. Saw you exit the poultry pantry. Last poultry peddler didn't last long. I told him about the new curtains I just got. I hope the jealousy he felt didn't drive him out. I tried to stay humble. It seems that something happened to the last person whose humanity was taken away, stripped to a poultry peddler. It's unsure what specifically happened, but it's unlikely it's anything good. After that, you talk to the woman next to the military officer, who has an interesting request. She wants you to cook 12 cigarettes and 1 egg. I guess you oblige. Positioning is extremely important with having this many ingredients, since if the cigarettes are the closest thing to the edge of the pan when you try to flip the egg, you will instead make the cigarettes fly out of the pan and you'll have to restart cooking. This is good for me, I think. They really don't make them like they used to. Afterward, you go across the metallic bridge connecting the other rooftops to the large structure, which the saint resides in. You go up to the 3 officers on the left, and the first one requests you to cook 2 of his fish rations. This is exactly where the fish rations become more difficult to deal with, since it becomes really easy to have either of the tins or one of the fish fly out of the pan and make you fail. After cooking that meal, you talk to the next officer, who also seems to know you. What did you expect was going to happen? No one leaves here. These people need us. Like actually. Not in a corrupt way, I think. The way this military officer is talking seems like it might suggest that you were previously either a military officer or somehow connected to the military. There is still one more mouth to feed on the rooftops, but before that, you might as well check out the entrance to the Saint's enclosure. The door is obviously locked, and next to it is a person that's tasked with making sure nobody gets in. The Saint of Six Stomachs is just beyond this door. I was demoted relatively recently. My only job now is watching the door. Allowing you entry without any form of credibility would be an embarrassment. Should you feed, say, at least 27 of his people, I would consider letting you in. There are many, many hungry people. Not just here on the roof, but in every corner of the city. Each one yearning for new flavors and experiences. The Saint of Six Stomachs can hear their stomachs grumbling and would be eager to thank the person who quells it. So yeah, feed 27 people. Weird number, I know, but it feels right. It seems that there are still even more people to feed in different corners of the city. The amount of people you have fed so far isn't nearly enough for the Saint to be respectful of you, so you continue. With still having one more mouth to feed, you go to one of the corners in the rooftops, the entrance to the prison, where in the front are guards that are hungry. But first, there is one loner that almost seems to be gazing into nothingness. The flamingos were banned a long time ago, I think. Honestly, I can't remember. But they left pink feathers everywhere, like buildings were dusted with some sort of strawberry sugar. Absolutely beautiful. As kids were to drop them from the rooftops, just watch them spin around. Would do that all the time on the way home from school. We stopped eventually. Don't remember when or why, really. What really sucks is if we wanted to do it again, it's too late. They're gone. We just really didn't know how good we had it. But I like to think that since I remember it so fondly, we made the most of it. Absolutely beautiful. The flamingos seem to be another animal held in high regard, especially after they were banned, supposedly, by the Saint. A common theme among many of the people you have spoken to so far is that they are unhappy with their living situation, with the Saint having a dictatorship-like role in operating their country. Every new decision only seems to make the country worse. The other two officers seem to be talking about something slightly odd. My girlfriend goes to a different school. I believe you. She's Polish. That's why you don't know her. The ingredients are quite simple though. Just an egg and a fish ration, which you quickly take care of. As the text on the screen just implied, there aren't any more mouths to feed on the rooftops. Which means you have to explore some of the different corners of the city. Firstly, you go towards the local bar. After going down the concrete steps, you encounter a familiar looking face. Do you think you can fry eggs on Mount Everest? I don't know, might be too cold. Why not just pre-cook the egg? Yeah, like a meal prep situation. I'm not sure about that. Oh, meal prepping is easy. That's not. I've been meal prepping for years, simply because it's a great way to save time, money, and reduce waste in the kitchen, so I'm happy to see so many people getting wise to this method. Whoa, I wanna cook the egg while I'm up there. Feels like cheating if I just bring it with me. The heart has its reasons, of which reason knows nothing. It's unsure how the woman followed you here right after you left the rooftops, or why she wants to cook an egg on Mount Everest, but I think more answers will be shown to that later. Close by, there's a bald man that seems to be staring at some kind of talking contraption. You still chugging along? Leaking, but still feeling. I wish they would just play a different song. This song for whatever reason decreases your leakage. I met the composer in prison, maybe that's why. Anyway. I'm ordering you some food and beverage. Oh, nice. Please be careful with the beverage. I don't mind if it spills, but it definitely makes things harder. As the conversation at the end implied, a new ingredient is introduced. The beer, like fish rations, has to be cooked with even the inedible parts on the pan. So in this case, the bottle. If the beer spills, you don't immediately fail as long as the liquid stays on the pan, but it definitely makes the cooking process much more difficult. The liquid is really light compared to the other ingredients, and a lot of it spills out from the bottle, making it really easy to fail. How was that? They cooked it just like you like it. Even the brain, the organ of marvels, succumbs to the echoes of stomachs. Oh? Gonna go inside. I love this part. It seems that whatever contraption this person's brain has been inserted inside still has the desire to eat. Specifically, to eat food that they enjoy. Next up, you go into the club itself. There are many people dancing and drinking alcohol, as should be expected. But the place is also incredibly dirty, with the walls full of grime and dozens of trash bags scattered around, even in the club itself. First, you talk to a group of 3 people sitting around a table. I should not have gotten us drinks, amidst the sea of dance. I knew I'd get wet. I don't complain much. I was complaining. Dance just clouds the air like a salty humidity. I don't have a fuzzy towel. Unfortunate. I am feeling moist. I got us beer to share. Just one? This time, you're given the task of cooking 1 egg and 2 beers. This is one of the most difficult meals you have had to cook so far, since if even 1 beer spills, it makes it very difficult to finish the meal. But of course, you still complete it. That was incredible. I had my doubts, but if I had 6 stomachs, at least 5 out of 6 of them would be happy. Next to the friends is an individual that has some interesting information. I have met the Saint of 6 stomachs before. I was friends with his daughter. He looked like the owner of a place I used to work at. The owner was a very insecure man. Made us hang Christmas lights underneath tables. After all the surgeries though, and marinating, I doubt 6 stomachs looks like that now. This gives some more information about the saint. 6 stomachs seems to have a daughter, but more importantly, he was a relatively normal person before seemingly becoming a part of some massive machine the size of a missile silo. Most likely through the aforementioned surgeries and marinating. There is a slightly odd looking person, gently touching a white trash bag. My ice is too cold. But I don't want water. Can you just heat it up a little bit in the glass? Very quickly the game yet again introduces a new mechanic, the glass and ice cubes. This adds a very interesting layer to the cooking mechanics, since even before you start cooking, you have to very specifically place the ice cubes in the glass, or you will almost immediately fail, since the ice cubes will obviously melt. The glass with the ice cubes is relatively heavy compared to most ingredients, but the ice cubes can fly out of the glass pretty easily if you're not careful with your positioning. Damn, room temperature ice is on another level. Afterward, next to the weirdo, is a table with 3 people. that seem to be discussing something secretive. Quota is low. Saint of Six Stomachs may seek out restitution. Systemic discourse is really hindering their output recently. Agreed. Since 2052, pseudo-neo-technocentrist consumers have been dirtying gloves. In relation to the socio-consumer, that is. Yep. I have heard tender whispered desires to move away from the state-operated enterprises structure, favoring something more... Don't say it. That word will send echoes around the room. Then should I run another search? It's possible to hide chickens behind toilets. I think. No. To win one fortnight? We would have our very own anti-disestablishmentarianism movement on our hands. Little lumpy. Go team. This gives a lot more insight into the world of Arctic eggs and how the country you're in operates. According to the dialogue, the saint seems to be a religious figure of sorts, since it mentions anti-disestablishmentarianism. This would also explain why the saint is talked about in a way that makes them seem like a god. Based on what one of the people on the table is wearing, it would be easy to guess that they're supposed to be some kind of member of an activist movement. Most likely one that opposes the rule of the saint. The two military officers also seem to either be a part of the activist movement, or at least supporters of it, since they're talking about everything so openly with each other. It's unknown if these people specifically became military officers to gather inside knowledge about the saint and the current government, or if they joined the movement later. Either way, the movement seems to be at least semi-competent. After that, there seems to be another person that knows you. Used to come here all the time. You and me, man. You were holding me back. My legs have never moved faster. It seems that you went to this club with this officer before. The fact that so many military officers seem to know you in some way might indicate that you were involved with the military before. But alas, you cook for two people on the dance floor. And then talk to the bartender. I thought this would be a job that would get me my ticket out of here. Since bar food is easy to make. And there are rarely any complaints. But the Saint of Six Stomachs would notice me quicker. But hardly any of these people eat. Only drinks. I have to make them so quickly that I rarely get to spend any time on my cooking. It seems that there is another person that wants to make it out of this dystopian hellscape the same way as you, cooking. Although, it isn't going as well for him, since almost nobody in the club eats anything. To help the bartender regain some of his motivation, you cook up 2 drinks and an egg, with the cigarette acting as a timer again. That was impressive. I have never made drinks that quick before. I should quit. But honestly, not much compares to watching condensation dripping down a wet glass. There are still more mouths to feed, so you check the other tables. Too many soldiers, honestly. Makes everything feel a little too hostile. I noticed. Oh, sorry. I needed a job. Quit. Too scared. When the bass drops, kill yourself. Beauty is found in the briefest of moments, not in the grasp of eternity. After that interesting exchange, you cook 2 drinks for a pair of friends. But there is still one more person that is hungry, even though everyone in the club has already been fed. The only place left to check is the bathroom. Inside, it's filled with hazy smoke, and the entire bathroom is blood red. The toilets, unsurprisingly, are completely filthy, but more importantly, there's a person looking down one of them. Damn. You would not believe what I dropped in there. Could you jump in and grab it for me? There's a massive hole leading what seems to be at least several hundred meters down. So far that you can't even see the bottom. With nothing better to do, you might as well drop down. You seem to arrive in some kind of underwater dome, which is entirely made of transparent glass. There seem to be what look like mechanical dolphins swimming in the water, and also various small fish. It's unsure who built this place, but you walk forward. In the middle of the dome is a hole that has a large pool of water, and swimming in it is a gigantic sea creature with mechanical apparatuses connected to its body. On the other side of the dome is yet again a familiar face, this time talking to a dolphin. Can you fry eggs on top of Mount Everest? The whale looks hungry. Place an egg in his mouth. You start cooking on top of the large pool of water. And after cooking it, the whale comes up to you, with its mouth unhinged, awaiting the delicious meal. And so, you oblige. The flickering torch brutalizes the blackened sun, chirping like a cricket seared in midnight, calling for an answer marinated in the star's whisper. But his response remains unsatisfactory. An echo peppers the air. We must forgive the crickets, roosters of the moon. After that, you leave the globe and go back up and walk back to another corner of the rooftops. This one leading to the prison. The inside, as expected, is completely filthy. The floors, walls, and ceilings are all made from concrete, and metallic bars keep the prisoners in their cells. The prisoners themselves have had their heads replaced with the same kind of contraption that one of the people you fed had. It's possible this could be some kind of permanent punishment to physically mark people that have gone against the laws of the saint, making it so that nobody will ever look at them as normal citizens again. Talking to a prisoner doing a strange dance, he says, "I prefer interpretive plumbing. It has many benefits. The main one being that sometimes if I work up enough of a sweat, the bugs find me desirable. I will let you use this one as seasoning, but don't let him escape." You are quickly introduced to yet another new mechanic, the cockroach. The cockroach is a very interesting ingredient, since you have to cook it while it's alive. The roach, as expected, tries to escape immediately, as it's dropped on the pan, by running to the edge and quickly flying away. You have to constantly flip the roach on its back as it tries to escape to at least temporarily make it stay still. They can be quite problematic as they get up very quickly, meaning that most of the time you have to prioritize flipping the roach over instead of cooking the other ingredients. That meant a lot. Thank you. After that, you talk to a person that seems slightly similar to you. I work for the TV station. I love your shoes. Be careful. They take away that pan of yours. We're roommates. And that's a one-way street. Trust me. Based on what this person said, it's possible that they might be the old poultry peddler, who has been mentioned before already. Losing the pan as a poultry peddler is the easiest way for one to ruin their entire life, as if it wasn't already ruined enough having your humanity lost. Next to their cells seems to be multiple military officers talking about chicken. Used to dream about these guys for the first couple months after the ban. Always wanted a taste. Chicken's taste of tomatoes now. Never mind. Grow up. It's better than the alternative. It's unknown if the claim chicken's taste of tomatoes now is actually the truth, or if it's only a lie spread by the rule of the saint, to make sure nobody even tries to eat a chicken. But the military officers definitely seem to believe it. Going to the other side of the cells, you talk to two prisoners that seem to be looking at some roaches moving in their cell. We have raised these guys since birth. Sure did. Do not waste them. If they escape, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. We talked about this. It is time. This time, you have to cook 2 roaches at once, which is quite tricky since they both get up at different times, making it so that you have to prioritize the roaches even more than previously. They just never tell you how hard it's going to be. Next to their cell is a group of 3 people talking about something interesting. Been working on some new music. It's kind of a bastardization of the techno neoclassicist genre. I used a lot of reverberant clucking for the percussion. I hope this will be the catalyst in reconsidering the ban on poultry. Or at the very least, it could compel the government to clarify how they handle the chickens that are seized. I used to be an actual musician. You showing me this stuff is like when a cat brings its owner a dead squirrel. This seems to be an amateur musician talking to the aforementioned composer the ex-prisoner talked about near the club. Again, people don't seem to be happy about the ban on poultry farms, which has resulted in chicken meat becoming a great delicacy. Next, you go up the stairs to the 2nd floor of the prison. And right away, there is a guard that wants to talk to you. I saw you cooking down there. You have good capability. I'm a dinner and show kinda guy though. So I'm gonna throw shit in your pan as you cook for me. You don't have to keep it in. I just want to get your wrist dancing. This time, you are introduced to a very interesting mechanic. The bullets. The people that want a show before having the food ready will drop bullets on your pan, which will slowly heat up and eventually cause a small bang, moving every other ingredient on the pan that's in the explosion's radius. You don't have to keep any of the bullets on the pan to finish the meal, but you do have to keep all of the main ingredients on it, which in this case is a singular egg. The way you flipped that pan was kind of aggressive. I don't appreciate that. But I suppose art that matters isn't really appreciated by everyone. If I pandered to your abilities, more poultry peddlers may have been able to satisfy me. Pondering resembles erosion. Grand ideas like towering mountains erode into accessible but diminished forms. Initially, these ideas pure and monumental become mountains through expression, enabling others to perceive them. Yet as demands for broader accessibility grow, like relentless rain, they sculpt the peaks into gentler hills and eventually valleys and canyons. This erosion, while making the mountains more accessible, strips away the beautifully rigid peaks. At the canyon's base, the view spans wide, offering superficial understanding without deeper engagement. The hiker who navigates the mountain's original rugged terrain, though seeing less, grasps its true nature far beyond any canyon pitch. My nostrils are hurting. Right behind the officer is yet again a familiar face. Can you fry eggs on top of Mount Everest? Maybe you can make scrambled eggs, so no side is in the cold too long. But at that point, is it even worth the risk? Mount Everest is hard to climb. The achievement of getting to the top dwarfs the notion of frying an egg. But no one's thrown an egg up there yet. I would be the first. Being the first person to do anything is of course impressive, but it isn't a substitution for quality. You don't get it. And you do. Yet again, the same woman is conveniently in the same area as you, almost like she's following you. But anyway, after that, you quickly cook a meal for 2 odd prisoners, before going up to a prisoner that is speaking gibberish. I have no clue what this guy is saying. We screwed up his mouth during the orientation procedure. This time, the game introduces the first larger ingredient of the game, the frozen pizza. The pizza is much heavier and larger than any other ingredient that has been shown so far. And as so, it also takes much longer to cook. This meal is relatively easy to make, but there will be many more difficult meals later. Oddly, there seems to still be one mouth to feed in the prison, although all of the hungry prisoners have been fed. You quickly notice that there seems to be some kind of entrance to a different side of the building. Walking inside, you see a very interesting scene. You see what seems to be a massive cave system with at least 4 men sitting on rocks, with flowers growing on them. There are the same mechanical dolphins you saw before, but more importantly, one of the people seems to want to talk to you. So what are you doing here in my office, you poultry peasant? I assure you, we are not hungry. But perhaps my dolphins could use a little entertainment. They were all decommissioned after the war with Argentina and yearn for some excitement. Okay then. Show us some moves. It seems that there was some kind of war with Argentina that occurred in the past, but I'll talk more about that after the cooking. The officer puts many more bullets on the pan than anyone else did before, but I suppose that should be expected, since he mainly just wanted a show. That was impressive. The porpoise peddler. Think about it. I will put a good word in with 6 stomachs. He actually helped me build this place way back when. Him with his chickens, me with my dolphins. Said he wanted to rest here with me when it was time for him to neurovault. I am not sure what that meant, but that day never came, unfortunately. Based on this, and the information given earlier, this person seems to be the leader of either a continent or a different country in itself. This person also seems to be friends with the Saint, since he apparently helped build this underground system. There is still one more corner of the city that is unexplored, filled with hungry stomachs, so you move. The last corner of the city seems to have some kind of bar and fish market where many people are gathered. You first talk to a military officer who says, "The Saint of Six Stomachs declared he no longer consumes stingrays. Ever since, Enrique has been frantically searching for a new go-to dish. I simply believe he lacks the expertise to prepare these novel dishes. You need to soothe your ingredients before they truly begin to cook. This time, you are introduced to yet another new ingredient, the pufferfish. The pufferfish is the second ingredient in the game that is alive. The pufferfish occasionally activates its defense mechanism and puffs itself up to become larger, and because of this, also bounces on the pan multiple times, making it very easy for it to escape during cooking. I felt soothed just watching you handle that pan. Didn't know I was in the splash zone." Another officer nearby seems to have something interesting to say. "A lot of veterans like to come down here to the underbelly of the city. Not sure why, I think it's the cool air. I find the air a little bit too salty. But this is where the Saint of Six Stomachs got his start, so naturally, this place became a hub for some interesting chefs looking to make some noise. I like things a bit simpler though. It seems that the reason why people gather in this area a lot is because the Saint of Six Stomachs initially got his start here. The officer also asks you to cook a larger fish for him, so you do." That paired elegantly with the fish. "If you need, use my stomach as your bail money." You also talk to a person next to the officer. "Hey man, how you been? Yeah. Damn, they really tore you apart, but I'd recognize the nose of yours anywhere. We used to use your nose as a sundial whenever we lost power, mainly during the war in Argentina. I'm not hungry right now, but would love to give your stuff a taste at a later time." This gives a lot of insight into who you are playing as, and also the world itself. It seems that this old friend fought in the war with you, making both you and him war veterans. More specifically, the War of Argentina, which has already been mentioned before. This explains why so many military officers seem to know you, or at least have heard of you before, since you yourself were in the military before. It's unsure exactly what happened during or after the war in Argentina, but it seems that the country you are in won, in at least some way. You cook some meals for some citizens before going to the fish market. You're so al dente, so personal, a little intimate maybe? Boiled fish balls and cream, like an undulating monument, soaked from head to toe. While it's easy to review the first two accusations, there's not much I can say about the third. The fisherman at the market asks for your help with something. "I can't stand watching people eat my fish, the joy it brings them." Not enough. I know I could do better. I can catch, but I can't cook. That fucking robot up there will never teach me. Just buys me out and leaves. Can you show me what you know? This time, you aren't the person who's holding the pan, but the fisherman is. Because of this, the controls are also reversed, making this meal surprisingly difficult to complete. But you still do it. Thank you so much. Really. People didn't know what they were missing. I don't think I could attempt what you're doing. Making your way among people, the love for your work vanished from your gaze long ago, didn't it? I want to continue to love. Tell that to Six Stomachs for me. The fisherman is right. The reason you're cooking is not for the art, happiness, nor any kind of fulfillment in life, but only to earn your escape. Behind the fisherman is, yet again, a familiar face. Do you think you can fry eggs on top of Mount Everest? No? Well, I wanna try. You don't sound very confident. How so? You decided to ask me. I don't think you asked because you wanted my input. I think it's because you wanted others to know. Know what? I am not sure. Maybe that you have aspirations? That seems too simple though. It's more about the novelty of the idea than practical goals, right? Are you maybe looking for a challenge that seems impossible just to prove something to yourself or others? I think you take comfort in knowing you're expected to fail. If you succeed, that's great. You defied the odds. If you fail, well, no one is disappointed, because they figured as much. I think you're reading too much into it. It's just frying an egg. Deflecting like that is a little cowardly. It's unsure who is right, or even speaking the truth in this conversation. But maybe not having a reason in itself to do something is admirable in itself, especially for a task of this magnitude. After that, you cook for 2 military guards and another fisherman before talking to an interesting looking individual. My son won't let me die. Keeps replacing me, bit by bit. I don't really ponder the gradual loss of myself. That's kinda shallow. My son has almost completely been replaced, and I can still sense him in there. Still has that appetite of his even. But being near death, I feel a tense unease, similar to the moment just before vomiting. Every moment I am not in the hospital, I am here, fishing. Gotta eat while I can, they are taking my tongue next. The man tasks you with cooking 1 fish and 1 pufferfish, but more importantly, what he said is very interesting. Going by context clues, it's very likely that this man is the father of the Saint of 6 Stomachs. The saint seems to refuse to let his father die, and because of this, he keeps having his body parts replaced, bit by bit. His last wish, before having his tongue replaced, is this meal you are making. Your eyes looked beautiful as you did that. It seems that the man couldn't take the suffering that was caused by the prolonging of his life through artificial means, so he ended his life by jumping into the deathly cold sea at the pier. After witnessing that, you have now fed all of the mouths in the rooftops and also the other corners of the city, and so the saint might finally entertain the idea of you cooking for him. Inside his enclosure is only 1 large metal platform that leads you to the massive machine that the saint has become now. The first stomach requests 2 eggs. The second one, 3 eggs. third one, 4 eggs. The fourth one, 5 eggs. The fifth one, 6 eggs. And the sixth and final one, only 1 egg. Can you fry eggs on top of Mount Everest? Never thought about it. Perhaps it's irrelevant. For me, anyway. But still. The saint extends his hand out to you. Let me know. After that exchange, you finally earn your freedom, and a pilot, capable of flying some kind of plane, starts flying you away from the country you despise so much. But it isn't over yet. The ship crashes on Mount Everest, and the same mysterious girl is also there. Cooked on both sides, as always. Absolutely beautiful. The only way to go up is up the mountain, so you start walking. You climb up more and more and more and more until you reach the very peak. At the peak is a chicken. Absolutely beautiful.